This is the Frat House Sports Show. And now for this week's completely different and humorous perspective on everything sports, here's Frat House Mike and Sidekick.
Alrighty, well, there you go. It's the sounds of October baseball coming to you right here from the Frat House. And not just any baseball, but how about World Series baseball? And I'll let you guess which of the hosts here is jacked for the Fall Classic. That is, despite the fact for, well, the average baseball fan watching St. Louis in late October has become a little less than unique.
Don't hate since.
Hey, listen.
When was the last time you saw the postseason?
Listen, you know me. I'm actually, look, I'm just poking the bear, all right? Listen, your St. Louis Cardinals are back in the World Series for the fourth time in 10 seasons. And they have won 2 out of 3 of their previous appearances. Curiously, the only one, however, that they have lost was their appearance in 2004 against the Boston Red Sox. In that series, the Red Sox swept the Cards, but obviously we're talking about 2 completely different teams. I did a little research on it. The only ones that remain on the team right now, who? David Ortiz, and it looks to me like Yadi Molina was on the roster, but wasn't the starter.
Well, and Matheny.
Yes, Matheny was the catcher. He was the starting catcher, actually. But there you have it. 2 completely different teams. And, well, let me ask you this, Sidekick. The Cards are the only MLB team right now to get to the World Series 4 times in the past decade. So my question is that a dynasty? I mean, are they the early 21st century version of the New York Yankees?
No, because I think in order to realistically be considered a dynasty, I think you have to win.
Well, they've won 2 out of 3.
Yeah, but
I mean, they're doing something that nobody else has done. No other team has done.
Okay, if they win this one with three
you'd say dynasty.
3 champions, then I think you could start talking about dynasty.
Now you've got a chance to be there for Game 6 in Boston next Wednesday.
Yep.
That is if the Cards play, well, and if they don't play the next 3 games the way that they did last night. Dropping the first one 8-1. Your Cards recorded 3 errors in that one, dude. Listen, they keep doing that, there won't be a Game 6. Obviously, we know who you're rooting for. I heard you the other day on the Touch 'Em All program over on CLW 83.
Yep.
What do you think the Cards have to do in order to turn the odds in their favor? Because right now, Red Sox are favored.
Well, I mean, come on. They looked horrible last night.
Yeah.
They need to play better defense.
Yep.
And they need to get the bats going.
All right. All right, well, there you have it. All of us here at Frat House Sports, where we're hoping that you, in fact, get there and will be there at Game 6. And listen, it's going to make for a really great and terrific Frat House Sports Show production next week, as you'll be coming to us pregame on that evening. All right?
But I do have something I want to. I need to address the Cardinals. Unfortunately, at this moment, I need the Cardinals organization to pull their head out of their asses. Okay, you guys looked like a AAA team last night, maybe AA, and you're the National League champions. I mean, watching Wainwright and Yadier Molina hold hands and sing "Kumbaya" watching the baseball fall down between them was pathetic. Okay, but don't think that Boston's gonna get off on the hook on this. Okay, Boston, you guys need. I mean, come on. You keep flashing to Matt Damon. You got a fraud singer who's singing during the 7th inning stretch. You keep talking about the Boston Marathon bombing and Boston Strong and everything else like that, and coming up with all these excuses for why you think you should be there. The Cardinals are there because it's the Cardinals' way. We win championships. We had the best record in the National League. We are there because we deserve to be there. So for Boston, stop coming up with these stupid excuses for why you think you need to be there, and get there and be there for the reason you need to be there.
No partisanship in that particular rant, none whatsoever. I will say this, however, look, let's get it straight. Both teams had the exact identical record ending the season.
Sure,
so
absolutely.
We've got a perfect World Series because you got the two best teams in Major League Baseball.
Which doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. All right, let's get over and check in on some sports on wheels. How about that? I saw a column the other day talking about playoffs. I saw a column the other day that was attempting to make the case that NASCAR's chase is the best playoffs in sports. Now, I'm not going to get into that discussion this evening because we could be here all night long. But when you take a look at the leaderboard in a moment, there might be a case to be made for that. However, race 6, we were out at Talladega, where everyone is always expecting the big one to come through and wipe out half the field. Well, that wasn't exactly the case. In fact, it didn't end like that at all. It was actually pretty tame. And in my opinion, that's reflected in the winner. For the second time in 2 weeks, a non-chase driver took the checkered as the number 1 of Jamie McMurray made it to the winner's circle for the first time since 2010 in the Cup Series. Hashtag that helps no one, huh? But the leaderboard did get shook up just a bit as Jimmy Johnson took sole possession of the first spot. 4 points now ahead of Matt Kenseth. Kyle Busch moved up from 5th to 3rd. Now, as promised here, we have shaded everything up to the 5th position. But let me ask you, Sidekick, with just 4 races remaining, is this a 5-man race? Is it a 3-man race? Is it a 2-man race? What is it at this point?
Well, I think right now you're looking at, it's probably a 4-man race.
Okay.
Leaning heavily towards possibly 2. Obviously, Kenseth and Johnson.
Right.
And Johnson's got some tracks coming up that he's really good at. I think Jeff, you can pretty much he's not, out of it, but he's got a lot of work to do.
Okay.
Which Martinsville is actually a good track for him.
Yes, it is.
So he's not completely out of it, but he's fading.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, chase race number 7 coming this Sunday at half mile. We're going half mile on Martinsville Speedway. Coverage of that race begins at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. So short tracking, Sidekick. We need some NASCAR fantasy picks as our Frat House Sports League, as you're going to see in a moment, very, very, very competitive. And so we need your picks brought to us by our friends down in the Baltimore area at Herb FM Sports Internet Radio. Check them out over at herbfm.com. What do you got for us this week?
All right, here we go. All right. So this week for our roster, we're going to start off with Jimmy Johnson, $29.
Okay. Johnson?
Yep. We're going to go with Kyle Busch, $28.50.
All right.
Jeff Gordon, $26. David Reagan, $10.50. And my lucky dog, sponsored by Herb FM Sports, goes to one David Rudiman, $6. That takes the roster to $100 even. A lot of money there at the top, but guys that run well at Martinsville.
Okay. Well, let's see how that goes. And you take a look at that. When you take a look at it real quick, we've got 4 people tied for 3rd. That's how competitive this is. This is actually more competitive, really, than the actual chase leaderboard over at NASCAR.
Yep.
This is fun stuff, folks. Make sure you jump in with us next year when we advertise it. All right, before we get off of motorsports, though, we have to run through the NHRA leaderboard as we head toward the 5th of 6 countdown matchups, and the 5th one's coming up this weekend. In the Top Fuel Dragster division, Sean Langdon stays atop with 83 points. He's now 83 points ahead of Doug Kaleda. And it appears that last year's champion, Antron Brown, well, he's got himself a lot of work to do. Now 129 points and in 5th position. In the funny car division, 15-time champion John Force has moved into the top. 65 points of Matt Hagan. Who'd have thunk this one? If, in fact, he can hold the course, we might be looking at a 16-time champion this year. In Pro Stock, late in the countdown, Jake Coughlin goes to the top of the list, but just 45 points ahead of Mike Edwards. Somehow or another, I just got a feeling, Mike Edwards, watch it. He's going to turn this thing around with just 2 remaining. All right. This week, the 5th of 6 countdown rounds takes place out in Las Vegas, Nevada. And it's very possible that some of these divisions might actually be wrapped up as we go into the final race 2 weeks from now. All right. Now, we're entering week 8, incredibly already, of the NFL season. And as part of our expanded football coverage this season, Sidekick and I had the pleasure earlier this evening to speak with 97.5, the Fanatic Philadelphia Sports Talk Show host and Philadelphia Eagles reporter and columnist for EagleDelphia.com, Matt Lombardo. And what we want to do is we want to bring you a few minutes of that chat to you right now. Boy, this is a big one and a thrill for us. We've got with us here this evening Matt Lombardo, who is a Sunday morning sports talk show host over on 97.5 The Fanatic here in Philadelphia, and also a journalist and columnist for EagleDelphia. And boy, oh boy, Matt, you've been a writing fool recently. I mean, what, 2-3 posts a day it seems like?
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me on your show. I'm happy to be here. And that's one of the nice advantages of, being over at the NovaCare complex every day. You get a good feel for what's going on around the team and, happy to be able to bring that to the fans on EagleDelphia.com. But you make sure you want to check in with us multiple times a day because there's always something happening with the Philadelphia Eagles, and we'll be sure to bring it to you.
And that's for sure, because I've been checking a couple times a day, and there's always a new post up there from you. One of the things, though, that we got to get into, and you're saying you were over there at the NovaCare Center all the time. Well, we've been living with, it feels like, the fans here in Philadelphia have been living with a quarterback controversy, not for the last 2 weeks, not for the last 3 weeks. It feels like going all the way back to the beginning of the season. My question to you, though, is do we really have a quarterback controversy right now? Or really, are we going to have more of a quarterback controversy next season?
Yeah, Mike, it's funny you bring that up because I was actually talking with a couple of colleagues over at the NovaCare complex today that you think about how many franchises in the National Football League have stability at the quarterback position, and they're the teams that win. And ever since Donovan McNabb was traded to the Washington Redskins on Easter Sunday in 2010, we've really had a quarterback conversation or controversy here in Philadelphia. The decade plus of stability with Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb, that's no longer here, especially when you factor in Michael Vick and his injury-prone nature of having him as your starting quarterback. You're always going to have questions, always going to have a conversation. But I'll admit, I was one of the bigger Nick Foles proponents in the Delaware Valley. I was a firm believer that he could execute Chip Kelly's offense, and not only that, he was probably ideal to, man the ship as Chip Kelly's quarterback, given his high percentage of completion percentage, ability to get the ball out of his hands quickly. But we saw against the Dallas Cowboys, Mike, and guys that, the Eagles don't have one starting quarterback. They don't have two starting quarterbacks. They have zero starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, great point.
Nick Foles really came up small in the biggest moment of his career, goes from a 133.3 quarterback rating against the Buccaneers 2 weeks ago to last week throwing for just 80 yards and looking very slow to release the ball. Very inaccurate, very uncharacteristic of Nick Foles. Then you have Michael Vick, who ever since that dynamic first half against the Washington Redskins, guys, he's really regressed. He has the lowest completion percentage of passes of 5 yards or shorter in each declining week since the Redskins, so it's gotten worse every week. Mm-hmm. The fewest completions for third down for first down of any quarterback in the league, and he's just 5 of 19 passing in the red zone. So while it's great that he's back, if he in fact is healthy enough to go on Sunday, with Michael Vick at the helm, this team has really struggled scoring. So, guys, to answer your question, not only do we have a quarterback conversation this year, but moving forward, I don't think the quarterback of the future is on this roster right now. Nick Foles showed that last week, and you certainly don't have a future with Michael Vick at age 34 and his declining skill set. So if you're looking for the Eagles quarterback of the future, you're going to have to look to the draft in April.
I would agree with you. But it shut the mouth up of those fans out there that are saying, oh, this is a Foles team or this is a Barkley team, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, Matt Barkley, I think it still remains to be seen. I think that his arm has gotten a lot stronger since training camp. I'm at practice every day. I was at every practice during training camp. And recently it seems like there's a lot more arm strength than we've seen at any point since he was a fourth-round pick of the Eagles. I think a lot of that goes to show with the shoulder being healthy. But he was in a really tough spot against the Cowboys on Sunday, brought in at the start of the fourth quarter. Basically, it's the 2-minute drill on every play. They're forced to throw the ball in every possession. He didn't really get any first-team reps. I think if you want to see a true resemblance of what Matt Barkley can be, the only way you're going to see it moving forward is if Michael Vick takes that 100-yard dash that he's putting himself through tomorrow and realizes he's not healthy enough to play. And then you have a Barkley going in the game Sunday who's been warmed up with first-team reps all week, prepared to be the starter. That's where you'll get a true sense of Matt Barkley. And I still, guys, think you will see Barkley later in the year, whether it's because Michael Vick gets hurt or in December the Eagles are so far out of the division race, which is still a possibility, that they'll evaluate Matt Barkley in the final 3 or 4 games just to get a truer sense of what they really need in the draft, if they really do need to pick a quarterback. Because, guys, remember, Chip Kelly saw him a lot at USC, and he did draft him. That's where Matt Barkley has an advantage over Nick Foles, that Kelly did use a 4th-round pick and traded a 7th-round pick to bring him here.
Right.
And good team to start off against the Giants.
Yep.
If Barkley gets the start this week.
Right. Right. One of the questions, though, that I've got to bring up, and you just said, Matt, we really haven't seen the kind of things from Vic that we saw in week 1. And I think that kind of goes right, Sidekick, to a question that you had with regard to the coaching.
Well, it's the same question I've had all year. Is this Chip Kelly experiment going to work?
Yeah.
I mean, is this a flash in the pan for 1 year? Or, is he going to be, are the players going to be able to keep up with this tempo of offense? And is this really going to shock the rest of the division?
Right.
Or are people going to key onto it, and next year it's,
Well, as you say, a flash in the pan. And Matt, you're bringing up, hey, we've seen Vic decline, but also as fans, we've seen that whole offensive, fast-paced scheme decline. And I'm wondering whether this is actually management-driven, not necessarily player-driven.
Well, I think that when you look at Michael Vick as a quarterback, he's never been a quarterback that has won a lot in this league. He's always done a very nice job of winning a starting job, but his numbers throughout the course of a season, even going back to 2010 when it was the MVP runner-up, there was a sharp drop-off in December. But as far as Chip Kelly goes, I think that still remains to be seen, because there's a faction of people who think that within 3 years, when the show cause memorandum on hiring Chip Kelly at the NCAA level is lifted, that he'll take the first plane to Austin, Texas, or Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or Southern California. But there's also the part that $6 million a year is a lot of money to walk away from. And you have to remember, Chip Kelly's an ego guy. He might not have won the national championship at the college level, but he's been to the national title game. He's won bowl games. He's succeeded there. And I think that he's really made an attempt to put his stamp on the National Football League. Whether that works in the long term, that remains to be seen. I think we have a truer sense of Chip Kelly once we see a couple of draft classes, a couple of free agency classes that come through where he really builds his team with the type of talent that he needs to run his scheme. And as far as the players' health is concerned, guys, I was thinking about this earlier today. You only had 2 players, and Jake Knott and Nick Foles, not practice today. And we're 7 weeks into the NFL season. You look around the landscape of the National Football League, it's very rare that 51 of 53 players are practicing and healthy this late in the year. So I don't think that the players declining or not being able to keep up with the speed is an issue. I think it comes down to how well is Kelly going to adjust moving forward.
It's the smoothies, man. It's the smoothies.
The smoothies,
not the pickle juice,
heart monitors, all that new wave.
You brought up something, and that is the draft. You also said that you did not think that there is a franchise quarterback on this team right now. A lot of people are saying it would be a disservice to the Eagles to win too many games. Hey, do we just throw this season, or do we fight to make it respectable?
I think that throwing the season, that might work in basketball where you're trying to influence the lottery. And like the Sixers this year, it's hard to go from a team that's in purgatory year in and year out and never get better. But in the National Football League, I think if you have the opportunity, especially for a new head coach and a franchise that hasn't seen the postseason in 3 years, it's been a long time since there's been a winning culture here in Philadelphia. It's a division where the Eagles right now are only 2 games out, 1 game in the standings and 1 game head-to-head against the Cowboys. I think if you're Chip Kelly, if you're the Eagles franchise, you put the pedal to the metal, you try to win the division, and guys, you can fight for this division with Matt Barkley or Nick Foles under center, and you can evaluate those young players if that's what you're trying to do. And at the same time, we've seen your St. Louis Rams give up a bounty to move up in the draft and pick Sam Bradford. We've seen the Washington Redskins make a trade with your Rams to move up and draft Robert Griffin in the third. We've seen the Atlanta Falcons give up 2 first-round picks and some other players to get Julio Jones. So you can put together a package of players, be it Deshaun Jackson, who's in technically the final year of his deal, and a couple of draft picks or 2 or 3 first-rounders to move up and get your quarterback, be it Marcus Mariota, Teddy Bridgewater, or whoever you're drafting. So if I'm the Eagles, I'm looking to win the division, and I'll handle the draft however I need to.
But real quick, Matt, we need a heck of a lot more than a quarterback, and that's why I'm not sure if I'm so happy packaging up a whole bunch of draft picks to just try to move up. If we go with the philosophy you're saying, where we fight to stay in the division, and we end up, say, with a 500 season, 8-8, we're going to end up in the mid-pack. That's not going to get us a top-ranked quarterback. And I don't know if we want to give up that many draft picks.
Jackson, who has shown that he can be a number 1 receiver in this league, and the Eagles structured his contract so it's easy for them to get out of at the end of this year anyway. You package Deshaun Jackson, your first-round pick, maybe a first-rounder in 2014, maybe a second-rounder. That'll get you up in the top 5. That'll get you in the area of a Mariota, a Bridgewater, a Manziel, or somebody of that nature. Right. You can find a way to move up. But again, I think that if you're Chip Kelly, your first year with all of these new innovations, the 9 hours of sleep a night, the smoothies, you want to show that that program can work, and you want your locker room to stay bought in moving forward.
All right, Matt, thanks very much. We appreciate you being here with us. We want everybody to get over to eagledelphia.com. Check out Matt's 3-4 posts a day. He's up there all the time, and you're going to get all the latest news. I have a whole load of other things I want to get to, Matt. Got to get you back.
Hey, happy to do it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks very much. Thanks. Many, many thanks to Matt for joining us this evening. And I encourage all of you to give him a listen at 97.5 The Fanatic, which is also streamed online. You can get it anywhere if you've got a computer. And also get over and give him a read on eagledelphia.com. All right? But, hey, listen, now it's time for you and I to talk football. And let's kick it off with.
And now, 4 minutes of football.
Alrighty, and then there was another sign the apocalypse is near. Who'd have guessed it, that going into week 8, we'd be talking about the Kansas City Chiefs being the only unbeaten team in the entire league at 7-0. Now, every week I got to be honest.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Well, no, they are. Every week I keep thinking, well, it's got to end sooner or later, huh? So my question is this. Here, why don't we do this real quick? Let's play a game. All right. This week the Chiefs host the Browns. Win or lose?
Win.
All right. Week 9 they head to Buffalo Bills. Win or lose?
Win.
Week 10 is a bye. Week 11 they head to the Denver Broncos. Win or lose?
Ooh.
Oh.
Win.
Oh, no. Week 12 they host the San Diego Chargers.
Win.
Oh, no. Week 13 the Broncos come to Arrowhead.
Win.
Oh, all right, I'm done. You've got them in us unbeaten. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. But listen, you're making the point. It's going to be a little while yet, I think, before we see the Chiefs lose a game. I got to tell you, I can't leave our conversation on the Chiefs without bringing in wonderful Andy Reid, victorious locker room entrance from just last week. Hey, this is classic Big Red. Honest to God, just classic. Wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Twerk it, Andy. Twerk it.
Yeah, really? All right, what do you say for a moment? We mix sports here, and we're going to go talk. Hey, how about the Philadelphia Phillies outfielder Dominic Brown got himself involved in a bit of a controversy when he tweeted out a picture of himself wearing a Dallas Cowboys jersey at Lincoln Financial Field during last Sunday's Cowboys-Eagles matchup. Question for you, Sidekick, is that a violation? And I'm going to put it to you this way. How would you feel if, say, David Freese or Yadi Molina showed up at a Rams game wearing a 49ers jersey? Is this a violation?
No. I'm sorry. Eagle fans need to get over them damn selves.
Oh, come on. You'd be feeling exactly the same way.
No. Eagle fans need to get over themselves.
You would be exactly the same.
Just because you wear some other jersey. Please.
I call violation on you.
Yeah, whatever.
Seriously.
I call a violation on you every week with your Peyton Manning money. Oh, my God. You two need to get a room already.
All righty. I don't think I have to tell everyone out there that we here at Frat House Sports take our fantasy games, well, fantasy football in particular, quite seriously. but nothing like what New York Giants running back Brandon Jacobs had to deal with the other evening. Jacobs was a late game scratch from the Monday night game against the Minnesota Vikings. All right. And then ultimately thereafter, he received a series of tweets from a fantasy football manager demanding that he get 50 yards rushing and 2 TDs. And in his remarks and following comments, he threatened that if Jacobs didn't meet his demands, quote, "It's over for you and your family." We could do a whole 10-minute segment if we wanted to on fans behaving badly, but for sure, this is criminal, yes? I mean, this is outrageous.
Jackwagon, come on, give me a break. It's fantasy football.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's criminal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy absolutely outright should be arrested. All right?
Are you jackwagon?
Yeah, he is, absolutely. I mean, that's just grotesque. There were a couple other things that occurred this past
him.
There were a couple other things that occurred this past weekend as well. But
before he starts making death threats, maybe he needs to move out of his mom's basement.
And there you go. We got to get into that. At some point, we will do a segment. It's not one of these weeks on fans behaving badly, and we'll get into all of that. All right? Because there were a couple other things that occurred.
Mike will be on that show.
We had a couple other things that occurred. The New York Jets and the New England Patriots game. All right. But here we go. This is what everybody waits for. Our Frat House Sports Week 8 picks of the week, brought to you by our friends Carl and Jim over at CLW83.com, where Sidekick just appeared on their pre-World Series Touch 'em All program. Get over there and check them out. Check out all of their network programming. And thanks, guys, for supporting us here at Frat House Sports Show. Heard you the other night. Nice job.
Yep. Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
For the second week in a row, let's kick it off with the Philadelphia Eagles. Not because they're good, but because they're playing the Giants. First game, New York Giants are at the Philadelphia Eagles. That's a 1 o'clock game on Sunday. The Giants right now sit at 1-6, having won their first game of the season Monday evening against the Vikings. A game that even announcer Mike Tirico whined, these are just two bad teams. Amazingly, Eli Manning is the 8th ranked QB in the league, but his league-leading 15 INTs is killing him, and, well, his entire team would go with him. Nonetheless, though, they managed a win Monday 23-7. I have to agree with Tirico. Watching the Giants-Vikes was like getting your teeth drilled. Get a load of these ending numbers.
Right now.
Eli Manning, 23 of 39, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 63.2 QB rating. Josh Freeman, though, on the other side, the Minnesota Vikings, 20 of 53, 190 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception.
And a concussion.
I don't think I've ever seen a QB rating of 6.1. How about a QB rating of 6.1? The Eagles were involved in an equally painful game against the Cowboys, equally painful from the standpoint of even just watching it. Eagles fans had their questions answered nonetheless about Nick Foles and 4th-round pick Matt Barkley. Amazingly, the team that was second in the league in total offense managed only 278 yards in offense in their 17-3 loss to the Cowboys. Now, despite the fact that these two teams just appear to be mired in futility on either side of the ball, the Eagles right now are a 5.5-point favorite. Where do you have this one going, Sidekick?
The Giants absolutely suck. I'm going with the Eagles. There's no other way to explain it. They absolutely suck.
You know, I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, but I agree with you. They suck. You're absolutely right. It's a matter of the Eagles just sucking less. So bottom line is we're both taking the Eagles on that one. All right, let's go take a look at game 2. And that's the Dallas Cowboys at the Detroit Lions. And that's a 1 o'clock game on Sunday. The 4-3 Cowboys lead the weak NFC East. And from everything that I have seen, they really are the best team in that division, if that says anything at all. I'm not quite sure what it does. Typical Cowboys team, though, this season. Passing. How about 47 times, in fact, against the Eagles last week. Tony Romo nonetheless has rather quietly worked his way up to the 4th-ranked quarterback in the entire league. What's not so Dallas-like, though, is their 29th ranked defense. The Lions lost a close one to the Cincinnati Bengals, 27-24. 54-yard Mike Nugent field goal with no time remaining on the clock was the difference there. Nonetheless, number 3 quarterback in the league, Matt Stafford, threw for 357 yards and 3 TDs. Calvin Johnson found his hands, huh? I'd say so. How about 9 receptions, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. Detroit is favored by 3 at home. Seems to me this is a rather evenly matched game. What do you think?
Yep. Well, you know, surprise, surprise, they run the remaining Fat Ryan brother out of town. They've got themselves a little bit of a defense, it seems, going now there in Dallas. The Lions have a suspect secondary. I'm going with the Cowboys to upset the Lions.
I'm going with the Lions on this one. Yeah, the Cowboys are a better team in the NFC East, but that's about it. Take the Lions on this. Let's go over to game 3. We're going to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Oakland Raiders. That's a 4:05 game on Sunday. Some people might be asking, what the heck is this doing on the list? But the Steelers are coming off an evenly matched game last week against the Baltimore Ravens, where they actually won 19-16. And like the Bengals, did it with a 42-yard field goal by Sean Schweesum with no time remaining. Now, Roethlisberger was mess, okay? I think the better part of this was actually the game plan of the Steelers. Very balanced. 29 running plays for 141 yards, 17 passing plays for 160. That's not a game plan you really see any longer in today's NFL. The Raiders were on a bye last week. However, they lost to the Chiefs in Week 6.
Oh, I thought you were going to say they lost on the bye week.
In my opinion, the Raiders continue to have issues at the QB position. Terrell Pryor, though, does give them a bit of mobility in the backfield on the ground. In the air, however, he had a QB rating of 45.7. Of the 18 receptions that the Raiders had, they were spread out, though, over 9 different receivers. So he's moving the ball around, but I don't know. I'm just skeptical on Pryor. That's kind of where I am. I don't know if it's enough. I just don't know if there's enough there from the Raiders. Steelers right now are favored by 2.5 on the road.
Yeah, this is a coin toss. I'm going to go with the Steelers on this one.
Coin toss? I don't think it's a coin toss at all. I think the Steelers win it. I think they win it easily. I think they win it by more than 2.5. So Steelers on that one. All right, last but not least, let's go take a look at the Atlanta Falcons at the Arizona Cardinals. That's a 4:25 game on Sunday. And we talked a little bit about the woes of the Atlanta Falcons a couple of weeks ago. But last week they turned that around with a much-needed win over the lowly Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 31-23. Matty Ice actually started to look like the real Matt Ryan we've come to expect, going 20 of 26 with 3 TDs and 148.4 QB rating. And that was without 2 of his big receiving stars. The Seattle Seahawks, just way too much for the Arizona Cardinals last week as they went down 34-22. No running game whatsoever for that Cardinals team, which means Carson Palmer is forced to throw. And that he did 45 times, put it in the air last week. If the Falcons were not a struggling team, there is no way in the world that this line would look like this. But right now, the Cardinals are a 2.5-point favorite over the Falcons. Upset alert, I say. What do you think?
Well, you know, it's interesting. First of all, this is my Bomb Diggity Bomb of the week, sponsored by CLW83 at CLW83.com.
Yep.
You know, we've got, I've heard that they're trying to force Steven Jackson to play this week because, you know, Snelling and Rodgers have just been horrible.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Rodgers didn't have a bad game last week. Go ahead.
Obviously, you've got Roddy White issues. You've got Julio out for the season.
Right.
The Falcons are just banged up offensively. You know, there's not a lot of weapons for Matt Ryan. I'm going with Uncle Mark's team. I'm going with the Cardinals.
Wow. Okay, no upset alert there. How about an upset alert from me? I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons on this one. All right? All right, there's our picks for Week 8. Before we get out of football, let's go bring you our Frat House Sports Facebook post of the week. Got the most activity, got the most views. Was a post that actually explained the overtime penalty against the New England Patriots, which allowed the New York Jets a second chance at a field goal, which they ultimately made good on and beat the New England Patriots. There was a lot of talk about that particular play right here at Frat House Sports. I frankly thought it was bogus, but when you read the article, it did appear you were right. I mean,
I saw it. The guy looped around.
Yep.
Pushed,
And apparently, I mean, I think that's kind of they don't call that enough. That's one of those things that they really, I mean, if you're going to call it, be consistent in calling it. I mean, I don't know if that's, I think that's why so many of us were kind of taken off guard. But, all right. Let's go take a look at our Frat House Sports Fantasy Football League. And there you go. Again, real good stuff. I'm back in 7, you're back in 8. We're both in playoff contention. Projection is we should stay there for the remainder of the season. We'll see how that goes, huh?
Hopefully.
You feeling good about this week or what, huh? You're never feeling good. He never feels good, Bass. Never.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. Well, listen, we're all rooting for you to get up there to Boston. All right? We want your Cardinals to do well so that you can get up there to Boston for Game 6. All right?
Yep, because then we'll have some good stuff, hopefully.
Yeah, and before we get out of here, I forget. Hey, please make sure you get over and check out our brand new website, frathousesports.net. I did forget about that. I always forget about that. All right? But get up there and we want you up there so that we can get you on the air here doing a pregame with us on Wednesday evening. All right?
And don't forget to check me out on Touch 'em All on CLW83.com.
You got it. Get over there and give them a listen. We heard it this afternoon. We sat and listened to it this afternoon. All right. Now, we'll be coming back to you here next week. It looks like it's going to be the eve of Halloween. So we'll be back here on Wednesday evening. All right, all dressed up for the Halloween season. In the meantime, there's one more thing you got to do for us this Halloween season. You know what it is. You got to keep us real, you got to keep us live, and you got to keep us going. We'll see you next week. Back on that slide, and then I'll do my last real quick shout out and thanks to him. But now it's time for you and I to talk football, and let's kick it off with boom, and leave it play all the way through this.
And now, 4 minutes of football.
He takes up the whole 4 minutes talking about the topics.
I will try to.
How do you expect me to get a word in edgewise if he takes the whole 4 minutes?
We're going to talk about the 7-0, Kansas City Chiefs, and we're just going to...
Now, it's the North American tribal leaders.
Gotcha, but we got to, at the end of it, we've got, was it that just grand?
Oh, it's a gift.
Oh, he is awesome. He is just awesome as he runs through there. That's just classic.
You call that running?
Well, it's running a little slow because it is a small GIF. But okay, I had to put that in there at the end.
Oh,
all right, we got Dominic Brown wearing a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader. Yeah, jersey to the Lincoln Financial Field. Okay.